There's a brutal truth about life that most people don't want to hear. When you were in pain, when you were down, when you needed someone to stand beside you, many stayed silent. They didn't just fail to help. They watched. Some even hoped you would fail. The instinct is to be noble, to forgive, to pull everyone up once you've built yourself back up. But here's the problem. If you rescue the people who stood by and did nothing, you teach them that their silence had no cost. When you think back to the moments that almost broke you, you'll remember more than the pain. You'll remember the faces. You'll remember the ones who were close enough to see your struggle, close enough to hear the cracks in your voice, close enough to notice that your eyes weren't shining the way they used to. And yet, they said nothing. They did nothing. They chose silence. Silence is not neutral. Silence is not harmless. It's a decision, a deliberate act of non-involvement. It is the moment someone weighs your worth against their comfort and chooses their comfort. When someone sees you drowning and decides not to throw the rope, they've made a statement without words. Your survival is not my concern. And that cuts deeper than any insult or direct attack, because you expected the enemy to be cruel, but you never expected the so-called friend to be absent. This is the part most people don't want to admit. Some of the people you loved the most were not just missing in action. They were witnesses. They had a front row seat to your suffering, and they chose to remain spectators instead of stepping in. Sometimes they told themselves a story about why they didn't act. It's not my place, or they wouldn't want my help, or I'm sure someone else will step in. But the truth is, real loyalty doesn't wait for the perfect opportunity. Real loyalty doesn't need a script or permission. It moves. It risks. It acts. Silence becomes a mask. It lets people pretend they're innocent when they're actually complicit. If someone is close enough to see your battle, and they still choose to watch rather than help, their silence is participation. It's easy for them to claim they didn't know what to do. But in life, doing something is almost always better than doing nothing. A single message, a simple gesture, a word of encouragement. These are not grand, impossible acts. They're human acts. And yet they chose not to offer even that. The danger is that later, when you fought your way back and your wounds have healed, these same people will smile at you as if they were on your side the whole time. They'll congratulate you. They'll want to stand next to you in the light, pretending they were there in the dark. And unless you're paying attention, you'll let history rewrite itself. You'll forget how silent they were when your soul was screaming for help. You cannot afford that kind of forgetfulness. Memory is not about holding grudges, it's about protecting yourself from repetition. If someone could watch you suffer without lifting a hand, they've already revealed the limits of their loyalty. They've already told you what you mean to them when there's nothing in it for them. Believe them. The first time they chose silence, it was their choice. The second time, if you allow it, it's yours. This is where most people fail. They confuse kindness with access. They believe that in order to be good, they must keep the door open to everyone, even those who prove themselves unreliable. But the truth is, protecting yourself requires boundaries. And one of the clearest boundaries you can set is this: if you could watch me break without stepping in, you cannot be near me when I rebuild. There is a misconception that those who stay silent in your suffering simply didn't understand or didn't know how bad it was. But deep down, you know the difference between ignorance and avoidance. Ignorance is not knowing. Avoidance is knowing enough and choosing to stay uninvolved. One is human error, the other is human choice. The second one is what you need to remember. Think about how many times you've gone out of your way for people. How many times you showed up when it was inconvenient. How many times you offered help without being asked. How many times you felt someone's pain and refused to stand by and do nothing. That's who you are. Now compare that to how they responded when the roles were reversed. That contrast will tell you everything. The people who remain silent during your suffering are teaching you something, not about pain, but about perspective. They are showing you who they are when the stakes are real. They are showing you what they will and won't do when you are in need. And that knowledge is not something to ignore, it's something to act on. The truth is, you don't need to punish these people. You don't even need to confront them. What you need to do is decide where they fit in your life going forward. Maybe they no longer get access to your inner world. Maybe they're no longer invited into your plans, your wins, your losses. You don't have to make an announcement. You simply close the doors quietly and keep building without them. The most dangerous thing you can do is rewrite history in their favor because it feels easier than accepting their betrayal. It's tempting to pretend it didn't happen, to smooth over the discomfort, to tell yourself they would have helped if they could. But that's how cycles repeat. That's how the same people get the chance to fail you twice. Life is already full of challenges. You can't afford to surround yourself with people who see you as optional. Remember who was silent. Remember who looked away. Not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom. Because the people who stayed quiet while you were in pain will not suddenly find their voice when you face the next storm. And the people who spoke up, who acted, who stood by you even in small ways, those are the ones you build with. Those are the ones who earn a place in your circle. Silence is a choice. And in your darkest moments, it's the loudest answer you'll ever get. Never forget it. Loyalty is a word people love to use when times are good. They'll say they've got your back, they'll stand by you, they'll never let you down. But those words are cheap when the sun is shining. The true test of loyalty is not in the calm, it's in the chaos. Anyone can stand with you in celebration. It's who remains when the storm hits that reveals the truth. When life is smooth, loyalty doesn't cost anything. There's no real risk in being on your side, when you're winning, when you have resources, when you have influence, when you can offer something in return. But when the wind turns against you, when the foundation shakes, when you lose status or stability, that's when the cost of loyalty rises. That's when you find out who's really with you. The storm is more than just hardship. It's a filter. It strips away the people who are there out of convenience and leaves behind the ones who are there out of conviction. The difference is clear. Convenience loyalty disappears when the benefits disappear, but conviction loyalty remains even when there's nothing left to gain. You've probably lived this in your own life. You've seen how quickly the crowd around you can thin out when trouble comes. People you thought would never leave suddenly find reasons to distance themselves. Some do it quietly, without explanation. Others disguise it as giving you space. But in reality, they don't want to be associated with your struggle. Your challenges make them uncomfortable, and rather than sharing the weight, they step away. This is why the storm is so valuable. Not because it's pleasant, but because it's honest. Hardship forces people to make a choice. They can either stand beside you knowing the risks, or they can protect themselves at your expense. And once someone chooses the latter, you don't need to wonder about their loyalty anymore. They've shown you the truth, and you're better off knowing it. Loyalty in the storm doesn't always mean someone can solve your problems. It's not about them fixing everything for you. It's about presence. It's about knowing that even if they can't stop the rain, they'll hold the umbrella with you. They'll share their warmth when the wind cuts through. They'll make sure you don't feel abandoned when the darkness closes in. That presence might not remove the pain, but it changes the way you carry it. People who are loyal in the storm don't ask, "What's in it for me?" They ask, "How can I help?" They don't worry about appearances or whether being associated with you will hurt their image. They understand that relationships built only for sunny days are not relationships at all. They're transactions. You also have to look at this from the other side. Storms test your loyalty to others as well. When someone you care about is going through loss, failure, or public criticism, do you step back to protect yourself, or do you step forward to support them? The way you answer that question determines the kind of loyalty you deserve in return. You cannot demand loyalty you are unwilling to give. The danger of ignoring this truth is that you may fill your life with fair weather people, those who will smile, cheer, and celebrate when things are easy, but vanish the moment difficulty arrives. These people will drain your energy without ever strengthening your foundation. They may look supportive, but they're only attached to the version of you that benefits them. When the storm passes, and you will remember who stayed. You will remember the ones who checked in, even if they didn't know what to say. You will remember the ones who defended you when others spoke against you. You will remember the ones who made sacrifices, big or small, just to make sure you weren't carrying the weight alone. Those are the people who deserve your trust going forward. Loyalty in the storm is rare because it requires courage. It's easy to side with success. It's harder to side with someone the world has turned against. It's easy to enjoy the benefits of a relationship when everything is flowing. It's harder to give when the river runs dry. That's why the people who stay in the storm are priceless, because they've proven that their connection to you is not based on conditions. Once you've seen this for yourself, you have to adjust how you invest in people. The ones who left when the skies darkened have shown you their limits. They may return when the sun comes out again, but you now know the truth. They were never really standing with you. They were standing with your circumstances. The next time the winds change, they will leave again. On the other hand, the ones who stayed, even when it was inconvenient, even when it cost them something, have proven their value beyond words. They deserve access to your growth, your wins, your gratitude. They have earned the right to stand in your light because they stood in your shadow without hesitation. The storm isn't pleasant, but it's essential. It forces you to stop confusing proximity with loyalty. Just because someone is close to you doesn't mean they're committed to you. The real ones are revealed when the ground shakes and the sky breaks open. And once you know who they are, you can build with certainty. So when the next storm comes, and it will, don't just focus on surviving it, watch closely. See who steps forward when things get hard. See who is willing to risk with you. See who remains steady when everything else is shaking. Those people are your circle. Everyone else is just passing through. When you finally make it through a season of struggle, it's tempting to believe the danger is over. You've healed, you've rebuilt, and you're stronger than before. But one of the biggest threats to your future isn't a new enemy. It's the old poison trying to find its way back into your life. These are the same people who stood by while you suffered, the ones who watched your battles from a safe distance, and now, seeing you rise, they suddenly want to be part of your story again. The danger here isn't always obvious because they often return with a smile. They might act as if nothing happened. They might use warm words, old memories, or even guilt to convince you that things are different now. But underneath it all, the truth hasn't changed. When it mattered most, they chose themselves over you. And no matter how well you're doing today, that same choice still lives in them. Old poison doesn't always come back looking dangerous. Sometimes it comes disguised as reconciliation, peace, or nostalgia. But poison in any form will still harm you if you take it in. Letting certain people back into your life isn't a show of strength. It's an open door to the same betrayal you've already experienced. The circumstances might be new, but their patterns are the same. People don't change just because you've grown. They don't suddenly develop loyalty just because your life looks better now. If they didn't value you at your lowest, they don't truly value you now. They might value what you've built, what you can give, or what being connected to you can do for them. But that's not the same as valuing you. And if you confuse the two, you'll end up surrounded by the same opportunists who vanished when you needed them most. Protecting your future means protecting your momentum. The progress you've made came from hard work, discipline, and lessons paid for in pain. You can't afford to invite people back in who drain that energy, question your worth, or quietly hope to see you fall again. Even if they don't directly sabotage you, their presence will shift your focus. Instead of building, you'll find yourself managing their doubts, their negativity, or their subtle attempts to pull you back to the version of yourself they're comfortable with, the version that struggled, the version they could dismiss. One of the hardest parts about keeping old poison out is the emotional pull. You remember the good moments you once shared. You might even still care for them on some level, but caring for someone doesn't mean you owe them access. Forgiveness is not the same as reunion. You can wish someone well without welcoming them back into the space you fought to create. Boundaries are not acts of hate. They're acts of self-respect. There's also a trap in thinking that because you're stronger now, you can handle their presence without being affected. But poison works slowly. It doesn't have to knock you down immediately to damage you. Sometimes it just needs to distract you, to plant seeds of doubt, to make you question yourself in ways that slow your progress. And in a world where momentum is everything, even small delays can cost you more than you realize. The truth is, if someone has shown you they can't be trusted in crisis, they can't be trusted with your future. It doesn't matter how convincing their words are now, you've already seen what they'll do when the weight is heavy. You've already witnessed their priorities in action. Believing them now requires ignoring what you already know to be true. And that's not forgiveness, that's self-deception. Protecting your future isn't about living in fear of betrayal, it's about learning from it. Every hurt you've endured was a lesson about people, boundaries, and trust. If you keep letting the same lessons repeat, it's no longer the fault of those who betray you. It's your choice to keep giving them the chance. The pain of closing the door is temporary. The cost of keeping it open can be permanent. Sometimes the most dangerous people in your life aren't strangers. They're the ones you've known for years, the ones who know your history, your weaknesses, your dreams. They know exactly how to speak to your emotions, how to make you lower your guard. That's why protecting your future requires more than logic. It requires discipline. It's deciding in advance that no matter how familiar, no matter how comfortable, no matter how tempting, certain people will never be allowed back in. This isn't about bitterness. It's about stewardship. You've built something, maybe it's your peace, your career, your confidence, or your relationships, and you have a responsibility to protect it. Letting in the same people who let you bleed without helping is like leaving your gates open to the same enemy that attacked before. It's not noble, it's reckless. And here's the hard truth: the people you shut out may talk about you. They may twist the story, paint you as unforgiving, selfish, or changed in a bad way. That's fine. You don't need them to understand. You don't need them to approve. Your job isn't to make them comfortable. It's to protect what you've built. Those who truly care about you will understand that, and those who don't were never truly for you anyway. The future you're building is too important to risk for the comfort of people who have already proven they'll let you suffer. You've worked too hard to let familiarity outweigh wisdom. Let the past teach you, but don't let it trap you. Not everyone who was part of your history deserves a place in your future. Some doors, once closed, should never be opened again. Old poison doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it walks in quietly, pretending to be harmless. Your job is to recognize it before it takes root, to remember what it cost you last time, and to choose differently. Because the moment you start protecting your future, like your life depends on it, that's when you truly secure the life you fought for. When you look back at your hardest moments, there's a small, rare group of people who didn't flinch. They didn't disappear. They didn't wait until it was easy or safe to stand beside you. They showed up when you had nothing to give them, when you couldn't repay them, when all you had was the weight of your struggle and the uncertainty of your future. Those people are gold. They are the foundation stones in the life you're building now, and you would be a fool to forget them. The world is full of people who want to share in the harvest, but not in the planting. They want to stand in the light, but not walk with you through the darkness. That's why those who stood with you when you were at your lowest are so rare, because their loyalty wasn't based on what they could gain from you. It was based on who you are to them, not what you could do for them. That kind of loyalty can't be bought, and it can't be faked. It reveals itself only when things get hard. Building with those who built with you is more than just gratitude. It's strategy. These are the people who have already proven that they can be trusted when things aren't perfect. They have already demonstrated that they're willing to invest time, effort, and care without any guarantee of a payoff. That's the kind of character you want at the core of your future. Because no matter how much you grow, storms will come again. And when they do, you'll need people around you who won't run at the first sign of trouble. It's easy to be distracted by new faces as you rise. Success attracts attention, and people who never noticed you before will suddenly act like they've been supporters all along. They'll praise you, they'll flatter you, they'll offer to help. But you have to remember, where were they when you needed help the most? Where were they when there was no crowd, no celebration, no spotlight? If they were nowhere to be found then, their presence now is not loyalty, it's opportunity. And you can't afford to confuse the two. The ones who built with you in the early days know the truth about your journey. They saw you fail and keep going. They saw you question yourself, but still show up. They know the sacrifices you made because they made sacrifices too. That shared struggle creates a bond that can't be replicated by someone who only knows the finished product. When you build with those people, you're building on trust that has already been tested and proven. But here's the thing, you have to be intentional about honoring them. Loyalty is a two-way street. Just because someone was there for you once doesn't mean they'll keep showing up if you neglect them now. You can't take them for granted, assuming they'll always be around simply because they care. Relationships, even the strongest ones, need to be maintained. That means giving them access, sharing your wins, and making sure they benefit from the success they helped you create. Too many people make the mistake of leaving behind the ones who stood with them when times were tough, thinking they've outgrown them. That's not growth. That's arrogance. And arrogance will eventually leave you surrounded by people who are only there for what you can give, not for who you are. If you want to protect your success, you need to surround yourself with those who proved their commitment when there was nothing to gain. When you build with those who built with you, you're not just protecting your future, you're creating a culture of loyalty. You're showing everyone in your circle that loyalty is rewarded. That standing with someone in the rain means you'll stand with them in the sunshine. That kind of culture attracts the right kind of people and repels the wrong ones. It becomes harder for opportunists to infiltrate your life when they see that your loyalty can't be bought, only earned. You also have to remember that building together doesn't always mean working on the same projects or sharing the same goals. It's about mutual investment. It's about making sure that as you grow, they grow too. Whether that means sharing resources, making introductions, offering support, or simply being there when they need you like they were there for you. It's about making sure your success lifts the people who helped you climb. There's something deeply powerful about looking around during your best moments and seeing faces that were there during your worst moments. It keeps you grounded. It reminds you of where you came from. It makes your victories richer because you're sharing them with people who understand the cost. And it makes your failures easier to bear because you know you have a core that will stand no matter what. The truth is, you don't need a crowd to build something great. You need a crew. And the best crew is the one that was willing to row the boat when the waves were high, not just when the water was calm. These are the people who keep you steady when the pressure builds, who remind you of your values when success tempts you to forget them, who challenge you when you start drifting away from the person you set out to be. In the end, your future will be shaped not just by what you build, but by who you build it with. If you choose the wrong people, your success will be fragile. It will collapse the moment loyalty is tested. But if you choose the ones who already proved themselves in the fire, you'll have a foundation that can weather anything. That's why you must never forget who was there when you had nothing, and never replace them with those who only appeared once you had everything. Build with those who built with you. Reward loyalty. Protect the bond you forged in hardship. Because no matter how high you climb, you'll always need people who remind you of the climb itself. The ones who kept you moving when you were too tired to take another step. Those are the people worth building with. And if you keep them close, you'll never stand alone. When you rise, rise with purpose. Carry the people who carried you and leave behind the ones who let you bleed. Stop saving those who watched you suffer. The world rewards clarity. Choose your circle wisely, and the climb will take you further than you ever imagined.